Hello and welcome to another video. So this is another aggro blood deck. This one is a little bit different. This one is more of a vengeance aggro blood compared to the first deck, which was more straight up just aggro bats. I think this deck may be slightly better, at least from what I've played of it so far. It's definitely got some interesting stuff. We're only running 2 Gift of Bloodkin in this case, and a fairly nice setup. A lot of people are running Medusa. Personally, not the biggest fan of Medusa overall. It's definitely a good card, but I don't know. I think I prefer having the Dark Generals as extra storm damage, or just as an extra body in general over them. Mainly because Serpents don't really get any value out of themselves unless Medusa sticks around, and that's a very difficult thing to do, even in this meta. Otherwise, pretty standard. You're running the Red Talon Strike because it's an amazing card to combo with Old Blood King. Old Blood King being the core of the deck, and especially with my sweet animated one, you can't really go wrong with that. The Vanias being very important to the build because they are huge amounts of storm, and the Wicked Fairy being a great source of both draw power and damage. You definitely want that. With Belf basically being your Vengeance activator to trigger both Vania, Dark General, really anything else that would ever require Vengeance and give you a nice draw. I also enjoy things like Nightmare Devil. I think that's a great card, although I haven't actually got to use it much. The few times I have used it, it's definitely been solid, and being able to play it on 6 is great. You can play 2 of those and combo it off nicely when you have other cards that really take advantage of the bats. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and we'll get right into the video. So first up on our list is Haven. Haven is presenting us with a solid matchup for Blood. I mean, if Haven gets a few wards out, it's going to be hard to get over them, but most of the time you can pretty much ignore that, go face and be fine. As long as their wards aren't too big, your removal will usually take care of them. Summon Bloodkin, Gift, all really good cards. Although not so good on their own. I really wish I had something to go with them. But I have found Boy Who Cries Wolf in this meta is actually crazy. Most followers now have 1 attack to really deal damage, and if they don't, you're guaranteed to basically slam that 3 to face. So it's really good. I do go wide with the Summon Bloodkin, not really concerned since we don't really have anything to use them with yet, and because we're probably going to go for the Carabos on 6, I can't really combo that nicely with Old Bloodkin on turn. So they do end up removing my Wolf. Kind of disappointed in that one, but also kind of okay with it. I do decide to remove the Lion because they do have the Evolve, and I wanted to take advantage of Belt, get my draw, and set up my potential next turn. So while it's a risk to go down to 10 so early, at the same time I don't see Haven outputting any high amounts of damage in the early game, which means I should be able to hopefully roll them over pretty quickly. Of course, Feather Fall. A lot of people seem to be running that card, and I had some advice to run it myself, and I probably will when I'm messing around with a new Lion build soon. There's so many decks I really want to mess with, but I just need the cards for. It's mostly legendaries. Hopefully that won't become too big of a problem long term. So since I got the Old Bloodkin out, I wanted to get my damage in early with the Evolve. I mean, before they can really go off, being able to score 4 damage to their face is great. And I had the Evolve, so I wanted to use it early. Especially since Vania can be my immediate follow-up next turn. Or if I get something like Summon Bloodkin, I can even drop Bloodkin and go that way. There's so many good combos next turn. Mostly the Vania play, though, is going to be the biggest one. Of course, Jules is going to work out nicely for them, getting a nice trade. But with what they have on board, they're really not going to be killing me this turn. So I'm really not concerned by that, and since we just got Red Talon, I can actually use Talon and use my 4-drop next turn, Dark General, and go face for quite a large amount of damage next turn as well. Plus, they are forced to deal with what's on board if they don't want to die next turn as well, so yeah. Pretty much what you're aiming for. Old Bloodkin, absolutely amazing card. The lack of random removal makes it hard to deal with. I think the best class to deal with this so far is Dragon with Conflag or something, because of that 4 health stat line. But a second Vania does the same job as what Talon would have done, and I can even add Talon to this if I feel like. Which gives us a really nice amount of cards. I mean, on its own, this is a really solid play. I mean, we have 9 damage on board. would have been easy to take half the health out at that point. So next up is Rune. We have a couple of Rune matches. Rune's very interesting at the moment. I mean, people are favouring Rooney, but there are also a few other builds floating around that is more interesting as well. Especially with things like Mysteria, which I have covered for you guys. But overall, I think Blood still has the best matchup just because of how aggressive it can be. Sword is also quite good due to their aggression in the early game, and that really helps you beat out most Rune decks now. Because you don't see very many wide floods in the early game, which is good. So we've already got a perfect setup 4, 5, and 6, which looks to be amazing. Of course, the goblins going in early as well is going to help out massively. And Witch of Foresight, not really a problem. I can probably actually trade with that favourably and not be really concerned. It leaves 2 1/1s up that need to be dealt with, and I'm pretty happy with that. So going forward though, Belf on 4 looks to be my best play. I mean, what kind of big damage swings are Rune going to do on turn 4? Probably nothing. Mostly they'd probably be aiming for a Rooney play, which even then still leaves up the 1/1s, which is a huge risk to them. Nova Flare though, does get the play, but does also leave our Belf, which is a huge thing to do. Mainly because that 6 damage is now going to be sent to their face, leaving them on 11 health and leaving me with a great way to go for lethal. Vania on its own is going to be a really nice amount of damage. I mean, with an evolve, we can quite easily throw, I think, 9 damage out for that turn. We normally have 6 plus the 2 for the evolve, and couldn't ask for a much better play than that, really. That's provided we actually rammed the old Bloodkin, but we don't even need to do that, because we can just play the Vania, do as much damage as we want, play another Vania next turn for lethal, and be completely fine. Can't really think of anything that Rune could do that would be a big problem. If they decided to go for any kind of wards, it would be really difficult for them. Turn 7 is their biggest ward turn, and they're not going to make it that far, so really, I don't know what would be left. Nova, it's pretty good, but just out of range of what they'd need to kill the old Bloodkin. And they couldn't play double Mysteria yet, so really I think at the point of last turn, Rune was pretty much screwed. There wasn't any combination I could think of that would have been able to save them from this turn. So our final match is also against Rune, but I think it is a slightly different variant of Rune. The previous one was a more Mysteria effect based Rune, which as I said I have covered, and I think this one is more of a Rooney focused Rune or a Earthright Rune. I can't actually remember what this deck was for the life of me. But our hand isn't too bad. I don't mind the Bahamut. It's an okay tutor and does the job nicely for pulling cards from the deck. And we already have Kara, which on 6 is fairly solid on its own. But we don't really have anything else now, which is disappointing. We do get to see the Magic Missile though, which means they're not playing that on the Bahamut unless they have a second one. So that's always nice. See, this is where turns start to get really awkward. Turn 3, I don't really have a great play. But the Savage Wolf top deck presents itself really nicely. Getting as much damage as we can early is always important as an aggro deck. There's a second Magic Missile. Not too surprising there. We're probably going to get another 4 damage thanks to our Evo. Looking to spend a really nice turn and block out most of the damage they'll probably present to us. So at this point, it might have been better to just play out the Summon Bloodkin. Or actually, Red Talon works just as well, I guess. No! Being able to power up for 1 attack and set up 1 bat works out pretty well.
I see to the ends of the world.
So with Rooney, they're definitely not going to be clearing off our wolf. They do have to ram the Rooney itself into the 1/4 to clear it, and then use the 2/2 to clear the 1/1. So that's another 4 damage we're going to get to their face. And we also drew the old Bloodkin, which with Summon Bloodkin and Gift of Bloodkin gives us a lot of damage. I mean, we're going to be setting them to literally 2 health the next turn. So even if they somehow warded us up, we'd probably be able to clear something off and give ourselves a Kara, which is good. Plus, they do need to remove this board as effectively as they can, and while they can remove it with all their followers, don't see that being the easiest way to go. Ooh, Fiery Embrace, that's a nice one to use though. So, the biggest thing here is 1 ward wasn't going to be enough. Karabos plus Old Bloodkin is 2 damage. All we need to do is use the evolve that we saved for that, and we have lethal. So, they really needed at least 2 wards to really block me out. And even then, it probably still would have been put on that clock due to Karabos, which would have been hard to come back from. Of course, they see that and give us the lethal, so not too bad at all. So I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. I actually love aggro blood decks. I always have, outside of neutral blood, which I don't quite enjoy as much as the normal blood decks. This is probably still one of my favorite kind of decks, and if you guys want to check it out, the link to will always be in the description. You can always find my decks down there. Also, you can hit that like button to subscribe for more content, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.